you've probably come across some version of the life advice quote that is along the lines of, it's not the failures in life that define you. It's not the failures that you have that define your character, who you are. It's how you respond to the failures, right? I'm sure there have been many different people who have said the same words in different ways. So responding to perceived mistakes, perceived failures, perceived setbacks. We've all been there. We've all had those moments in life where we've wished things were different looking back. We disliked what happened. We didn't like the way things went. We cringe at the mistakes we've made. We feel the disappointment, the sting of failures. And we can spend a long time ruminating, worrying, and getting caught up in our thoughts about what happened. And some people can spend a lot of time in those thoughts, and in doing so make themselves depressed for longer periods of time. And other people can feel the sting of the failure and move on more quickly. And it's having the ability to move on quickly, I think you can agree, that it's going to lead to a much more enjoyable, peaceful, and ultimately creative way of living, way of spending our lives. We're also going to be much more effective in life if we're not spending half the time worrying and regretting and feeling shame for what happened, right? When we can move on quickly from something, we're going to do better. We're going to just feel better, and things are going to go generally better for us. And we're going to, of course, as the quote initially pointed at, develop a character. We're going to grow as people the more we can be okay with, accept mistakes that we've made, and also use them. How do we turn a mistake around so that we can use it? So the big question that I just wanted to quickly touch on in this video was, how do we move on quickly from setbacks, perceived failures, mistakes in our lives, things that we really didn't like happened, but they happened? How do we move on quickly so that we benefit from this kind of resilience that is developed by being the kind of person who's able to move on quickly from things and rebound without getting caught up, without getting stumped? I know a lot of people, including myself in the past, who spend a lot of time just resisting what happened and allowing it to attack their present lives, allowing it to eat themselves up from the inside. Oh, I wish I didn't do that. I can't believe that happened. No. It can go on and on. So this is a skill that is underrated in terms of us needing to develop this capacity within us to move on quickly from setbacks. How do we do it? Well, I think there are two sides to it. The first aspect of it has a lot to do with what we've just been talking about, which is understanding why it's important, first of all, to not dwell on mistakes. Because a lot of us think that by dwelling on the things that happen, we exert some kind of control over our lives. There's something satisfactory to sitting there and grinding on what happened and trying to figure it out and analysing it and getting into our heads and into our thoughts. There are many of us who are brought up to believe that there is some value in doing that. To a degree, yes, there is a good reason for looking over what happened and getting a sense for why something didn't go the way you didn't want it to, and using that as feedback in life, and that's important. But we can go far with that. We can go too far. We can end up allowing it to ruin our lives and allow it to poison our emotional experience so that we're depressed and anxious, which isn't so good. So we need to understand that moving on quickly and rebounding from setbacks is an important life skill, because if we allow ourselves to be eaten alive by it, we become less effective human beings. We suffer more than we need to, and we become less effective, and we essentially sabotage our progress. And we also kind of give ourselves the green light to weaken. It's like it's almost confirming the fact that it's okay to beat ourselves up and allow ourselves to be swallowed by our pains, which is a weak position, because we're essentially breaking ourselves down. We are making ourselves less able to deal with life's challenges because we keep allowing ourselves to fall into rumination. We're tolerant of our self-inflicted judgments and stresses, right? Do you think that's a good tolerance to have? Tolerating critical, brutal thoughts about what you did. And you know it isn't, because you know how terrible you feel when you're brutal about what you did and you put a lot of pressure on yourself. So it's about seeing that, first of all. It's about knowing that you cripple yourself effectively by not rebounding quickly, by not getting up and dusting yourself off and moving on, accepting and moving on. If you don't do that, you're crippling yourself. That's the first aspect of it. And the second bit is, and I've already forgotten what it is, and that's not a good thing, because we're right in the middle of a video and I've got nothing else to say. So it's understanding. And the second aspect, in how do you rebound quickly? How do you train yourself to respond lightly to life's challenges? Well, the crucial component in it is understanding what's happening at the level of thought and how we're confusing the value of thought after we've had a setback. So a lot of us will have a setback and we'll get a disappointment, and we will spend time wishing things were different, spend time in our thoughts buying into the critical and judgmental thoughts about what happened and feeling bad as a result. So we're misusing our thoughts, and we're also misunderstanding our thoughts. We're allowing thoughts to kind of get in the way of our own reality, and that's going to slow us down. So we need to know what's happening at the level of thought in order to break ourselves free quick enough. So the mistake that a lot of us make is taking our thoughts very seriously and taking, our critical judgments seriously, and spending too much time in them, and then allowing those thoughts to depress us, allowing those thoughts to bring us unnecessary anxiety. Instead, you need to be able to step outside of yourself, especially when you've had a setback, especially when you're feeling down. Use the feeling of being down and depressed as a signal showing you that you are in your head too much. That's what I'm saying. It's not an indication to ruminate more. This is what most people do, is they feel terrible, they feel depressed because something happened, and they see that as an opportunity, as a reason, as a need to get back into your thoughts, and you end up, you don't leave your bed, you're no longer productive, you give yourself excuses to avoid life, and that can lead to a downward spiral. That's why things can get terrible. That's what happens when you end up not rebounding quick enough. So the alternative then is to experience the feeling of disappointment and use that as a signal telling you to get back into life again, because there's no use for you and your thoughts back in that world. What you need most of all right now is to take the courage to step into the real world again, the world of clarity, purity of data, purity of the matrix. The matrix in this case is really your thoughts, and that's what traps you, and you want to step out of that. You don't want to get caught in this fishing net that so many people do and can have their lives ruined by that. What you want to do is get back into creating good things for yourself again, and using what happened as well. That's a different thing than getting lost in rumination. There's a very big difference between using the information that you accrued through the failure and using it as fuel to drive yourself forward into some new pattern of activity that is progressive, forward moving, and gets you to the next level. And so it's a combination of using the data you've gathered from the failure and seeing it as a good thing, and seeing that was a loss, but it's guiding me forward now. So the priority is to actually take action, right? And to get into the flow again of life, get into action, use action as a means, as a tool, as a strategy to get out of your mind. And just to sort of close things off as a final overview and a reminder, is essentially we're talking about the difference between living in the world of illusion and living in the world of action. And if you spend your time too much in illusion, you're going to suffer the consequences of living in an illusion, which is pain, it's confusion, and it's ongoing loss. And to combat the chance of you falling into the world of illusion, you want to take actions and move on forward. And if in doubt, go for a walk. I'm going to end on that. Do subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Pass it along. Like this video if you liked it. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.